lot in my videos, probably because it's one of the inversions that I'm really confident with, and I love doing inversions from it. But recently someone wrote to me and they were like, Celeste, I'd love to know a little bit more. Like, I know that you did a jokey video ages ago about how to come into tripod headstand, but I need a bit more meaty information about that, and also how do you get into Shasasana with the interlaced fingers. So that's what this video is all about, and I can't wait to teach you the progression. Let's get to it. Let's do a quick recap of the previous Shasasana that I taught you, where you come into tripod headstand. Normally what happens with people is when they see tripod headstand for the very first time is they put their head down in line with their hands like this. And then it creates like really crunchy shoulders. And also what they don't have is the forward back control. So when you come into the tripod headstand, first of all, put your hands near your knees. And then hang on, I'll use my align mat to show you. So here my hands are near my knees. Can you see where the middle of my mat is? I'm going to put my head all the way on top of that. And then once I'm there, I can adjust my hands so that I feel comfortable. But I'm really careful not to have my hands in line with my head. Then from this tripod position, I'm going to put one knee on top of my upper arm and the other knee on top of my upper arm. And it's going to feel nice and heavy in the beginning when I'm starting to get used to taking my legs up. Now when I first started teaching yoga, I remember always teaching headstand with the interlaced fingers. But what I was noticing was most students would kick up because they didn't have the flexibility in their hamstrings. They'd kick up, and then of course they didn't have the control, so they'd fall over and their confidence would break down. Then I started thinking, okay, what's a different way that I could teach this that could make it really kind of digestible, really easy, a cool progression for most students. And I found the tripod was really good because like I just showed you, when you have your knees on your arms, if you don't have enough core control, it's fine. Your knees can just rest on your arms and you can be really relaxed. But then as you start getting stronger, you want to start putting the visualization in your mind that your knees are getting very light and your tailbone is tilting backwards. So I'll show you what I mean. If my hands are down, my knees are on my arms, then let's say in the beginning it's all heavy. As I get stronger, I imagine my hands are pushing into the ground, my tailbone is becoming very light and starting to lift. So my knees are now just skimming my arms. That's the very first thing you want to get to grips with. You want to feel that your knees are getting lighter on your arms. But how do you actually get your legs to lift all the way up? Well, I remember once going to a class and the teacher was speaking about the position of the pelvis. Some teachers called it like the cat-cow pelvis tilt. She called it male-female, and I thought that was really clever. I've talked about it in one of my previous videos, which I'll link in the description box below, but I'm going to go over it one more time now. If your tailbone was tucked underneath, this is like a stereotypical male position. And if you stick your bum out, that's like stereotypical female position, or cat-cow. Now, this really helps when you're in your tripod headstand. Once you've got your knees on your arms, you're more in a male position. Your pelvis is forward. And then to lift the legs up, what most people do is they focus on the legs. And it's really heavy and they go nowhere. But if you forget about the legs and you just focus on lifting your tailbone up, you're going into your female, your bum is sticking backwards. It's very light. Because most people actually have got the control to do this. Not everyone, but a lot of people that come to my classes, they've got the control to do this, but what makes it heavy is they move their legs before the pelvis and then they flop down. So that's the very first thing I want you to get to grips with. And then don't get overconfident. Once you've got your tailbone stacked on top of your head, you'll feel very light, and that's when most people think, yeah, I can do this. So they throw their legs into the air and then they lose balance. What's really important is to go very slowly. So if you're in your tripod headstand and you start getting confident enough to lift the knees off of the arms, stay here for a while, and then as your confidence grows, you start going higher and higher. But look, I don't even straighten my legs until I feel like, yeah, actually now I'm ready. So it's a very slow progression. And a lot of times in class, I use the analogy of building a house. You would never build the roof of a house before you've got solid foundations. So I want you to think carefully about your foundation in your headstand. Get the solid feeling of having knees on your arms first, then gradually start layering your house brick by brick by first tilting the tailbone, and then continue start lifting your house up towards the roof by letting your legs come up very gradually. And a house is usually not built in a single day, especially if you're doing a brick house. It takes a long time, it takes a few weeks, maybe even a few months. So be patient with lifting your legs up. Now, from here you're probably like, okay, I've got to grips with my tripod headstand, my legs are up. This is fantastic because this is a really great starting point for you to start working the interlaced fingers headstand. What I normally do with people is once they're really confident in their tripod headstand, I get them to practice lowering their legs with 2 straight knees up and down a few times. So what happens with most people is they get up here and then I say keep your legs straight, work from hinging in the hips and bring your legs down a little bit and then all the way up. Now, if they can't do this, what I get them to do is do very small movements, just a little tiny tilt. When a few weeks have passed, they get stronger, we go a little bit bigger, and then when that gets really easy, we go all the way down to the ground. That takes a bit of flexibility, but the most important thing is your strength, because at some point, your knees will bend if you haven't got the flexibility. But if you haven't got the strength, then you'll find that you'll just flop to the floor. So I want you to take it really easy with this one. Practice lowering the legs, 2 straight knees, down, up, down, up, down, up. When you get all the way to the floor, that's a really good time to start practicing the interlaced fingers headstand. Now with this one, what most people do, similarly to the tripod headstand, is they get their elbows a bit too wide. And what that means is they haven't got that forward back control. So what I want you guys to do is put your forearms on the ground, and take your hands and rest them on your shoulders. Interlace the fingers. Put the top of the head on the ground and lift your knees up. Now you might find if you're a bit tight in your hammies that your pelvis is like this. That's fine. If you've been practicing that tripod headstand, you'll be able to bring the knees into your chest, bent legs, and then start lifting the tailbone on top of the head, and you'll start getting the legs up. If that still feels too much, you can practice lifting one leg at a time. So one leg goes up, and it might be easy for you if you're flexible, or it might be a little harder if you've got any kind of stiffness. Then you practice just using this foot to tilt you up. And that's all the tips I have to give you to how to get into headstand. It's a really fun pose, and what I love about it is there's so many cool transitions you can do as you start to progress in your practice. So remember to leave me a comment and a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you next week when it's going to be Christmas time. Have an awesome week in the meantime, enjoy your Christmas shopping, and I'll see you really soon. Mwah! Bye!